Folks, we just got our first extended look at Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact, the upcoming 3v3 anime fighting game in the Hunter x Hunter universe. And I would say the response on social media from fighting game players has definitely been mixed. Some players are really excited, and some players are a little bit worried or a little bit disappointed with what the game is shaping up to be like. This is the first time we've gotten to see extended gameplay of the game, and we actually have some of the best players in the world right here. We have Goichi, Ita, and Fenrich, some amazing Japanese players getting their hands on. So I want to talk about what we can take from this, why I think some things are promising about the game, and why I also think some things are a little bit worrying. So if you guys don't know, this game is developed by Aiding. I would say that's maybe the main source of hype for the game. This is the same developer as DNF Duel, but more importantly, same developer as Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, which I think this game is very, very similar to. In fact, if you guys don't know, I have quite a history with Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Are you guys ready to be jump scared? Oh my god, look at that. That's 19-year-old JM. Oh my god, my hairline was in shambles even back then. So yeah, like when TVC first came out, it was a pretty awesome game, and I think you'll see as we watch this Hunter x Hunter footage, there are a lot of similarities. So first of all, this is a true 3v3 assist fighter. And when I say that it's a true assist fighter, I mean this isn't like Power Rangers Battle for the Grid or Marvel Infinite or Project L2XKO, where you know, tagging and assists are kind of intertwined. Like the assist mechanic and the tag mechanic are kind of one and the same. No, this is a game where you're calling your assists just like Marvel. There are happy birthdays just like Marvel. There's incoming mix-ups when you kill a character just like Marvel, and of course like TVC as well. There's also overgear, which is like the X Factor equivalent mechanic, very similar to X Factor from Marvel 3, but there's also a similar to Baroque mechanic from Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, Baroque cancel, where you spend your red life to cancel an attack. That's in this game as well. You have multiple super meters. It's kind of similar to KOF, actually, where you can see when a character dies, your max meter goes from 3 to 4, and you get a free meter from that, so that's cool. Then when you're on your anchor character, you can have up to 5 meters, so there's kind of a built-in comeback mechanic. And I feel like just the feel of the combos, the look and feel of how stuff plays out just feels so authentic to these older Versus games. That sort of 2010 to 2015 era really feels alive here. So here you can see player one is in overgear. You get extra damage and extra speed when you're in this, just like X Factor, man. So I want to compare like some of the physics of the game to Marvel and to Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. So like check out this wall bounce, right? Okay, watch this. When he does the wall bounce, boom. Now did you guys see like the physics of that? Compare that to Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Like here's this Ryu combo, right, with the wall bounce with the donkey kick. It's like the exact same animation. It's like the exact same physics, and there's other examples as well. So the way here that he does 3 crouching lights in a row, that is so TVC, so Marvel 3. Like just the pacing of it and the speed of these attacks feels so similar to those games. This is another example with the combo system. You can see when he does the lightning the first time, it ground bounces the opponent, but then if he tries to do it a second time, it puts them into a hard knockdown state. That's exactly how Marvel 3 works. Check this out right here. He actually does overgear on block. You can see the players are shocked by it. It's similar to X Factor guard cancel in Marvel 3, so another shared mechanic there. Here, if you watch the routing of this combo, he staggers him standing, but then any follow-ups you do on the staggered opponent send them airborne. That's exactly how it works in TVC. Forgive the extreme poor quality, but you can see after staggering the opponent, the follow-ups send them airborne in the exact same way. It just feels so similar to my eyes. It almost feels like they're running on the same physics engine, even though I'm sure that's not true, but like you can tell that a ton of the development work that went into these older games, they're using that know-how and applying it to Hunter x Hunter. So yeah, if we just look at the gameplay and, you know, the flow and the mechanics as well, the things that they've put in the game that are similar to all these mechanics from the old games we love, you know, there are some words that come to mind, you know, obviously like assist fighter, you know, Marvel-like game tag fighter, but also stuff like Kusoge. There's a little bit of, you know, it just has that trademark jank of a game like this where You know, there's going to be crazy mix-ups. There's going to be ridiculous touch of death combos. There's maybe even going to be infinites. I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be hit stun scaling in the game to try to prevent stuff like that. But it has that feel, and I think for a certain subset of fighting game players, that's what gets us excited. We love that. We love when there is that level of jank because we don't want every game to just be like Street Fighter 6 where it's, you know, super competitively focused, and if anything is too overpowered, they nerf it to try to make the game fair. Like, no, overpowered stuff can be fun as well, and I know a lot of people probably aren't going to play this game super seriously and try to play it at EVO or whatever. This is going to be just a fun release for people who like that genre of game, or maybe people who like the property as well. So I think that's probably the biggest source of excitement for the game. By the way, do you see this move? Doesn't this move look like Bardock from Dragon Ball FighterZ? I mean, we got like 3 Dragon Ball FighterZ players in this video right here, so I'm sure they're noticing the similarities, but yeah. By the way, this is a one-button game, one-button special, so they are simplifying the game somewhat, but obviously you can tell from the combos and stuff these guys are doing, even without having a ton of time to practice the game, they are doing some really crazy stuff. So even with simplified controls, yeah, this definitely has that old school game feel. It might feel a little bit crazy to call TVC and Marvel 3 old school, but let's be honest, that was like 15 years ago at this point. So, yeah. I would say the big source of excitement, it feels like an old game. It feels nostalgic to people who appreciate those games. So why is there also a lot of trepidation about the game and a lot of people who were either disappointed or at the very least worried about what we've seen from this gameplay? So I think the big elephant in the room that we want to talk about is the visuals, right? The visuals, let's just say this does not look like a current gen game. And I mean, to be fair, it is coming out on Switch. I think it's going to be multi-platform, but they have to keep it to a certain degree of fidelity to even let the game run at 60 FPS on the Switch. Assuming the game will run at 60 FPS, I mean, I hope so. It's a fighting game, but this footage that we have is fairly low frame rate, but that might just be the capture. So anyway, the visuals, it looks like a Switch game. I mean, it looks like a PS3 game. In a way, it looks worse than Marvel 3 because Marvel 3 had this really amazing art style with the cell shading and the outlines and stuff. And this game, you know, the art style is fine, but I would say overall the fidelity and even like the animation and the posing of the characters is just really not impressive. Hopefully it doesn't sound like I'm being too harsh, but that's honestly how I feel. If you look at other current gen fighting games, this game is not impressive visually, so it's going to need the gameplay to carry. But one of the issues is, you know, fighting games are generally online is like 99% of the focus, right? It's like, or at least multiplayer. It's multiplayer focused. So, yeah, I think you kind of have to sell the game to people for the game to be successful. It's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like if no one's playing, then the game's not going to be fun because you won't be able to find opponents. You know, there was that meme that was going around that was like, I want games that look worse, made by developers who work less and are paid more money or whatever that old meme was. And so people are like, oh, like, okay, so you don't actually want games that look worse, which, you know, I think part of that is like, okay, I'm fine with like an indie RPG having PS1 graphics because I can just play the game and enjoy it, but if a fighting game comes out and it looks really bad, and because it looks bad, no one buys it, then that kind of ruins the game. Like, how are you going to have fun if you can't play with anyone, right? That's the whole point of the game, is to find people to play with. So, yeah, in that respect, I think that the fact that this game has that look of an old-gen game could really work against it, because, again, like, if you can't find people to play with, then how are you going to enjoy the game? So yeah, I kind of am having an issue with that. And you know, the budget of the game, from all indications, the budget seems really low, right? I've seen people saying that the game has a budget of $650,000, which is of course very low. So we don't know for sure what the budget of the game is, but we do know that there was a release from the publisher of the game, from Bushiroad, who is publishing the game. You know, they said that their plan is they want to make mid-range titles with IPs from other companies. I mean, that's what this is, Hunter x Hunter, with a development scale of around 100 million yen and expected overseas sales. So yeah, 100 million yen is about 600 to 700K, depending on the conversion rate. So yeah, that is low. You can find other articles talking about development costs where they say that the standard investment for a medium-scale console game in Japan is often over 10 billion yen, 65 million, so 100 times bigger than this, which is crazy. Another point of reference in the fighting game world is Skullgirls, who were very transparent with the cost of their game because they did crowdfunding. The base game that they released of 8 characters cost 1.7 million. So that's 8 characters, 1.7 million, whereas this is 16 characters and potentially less than 1 million budget. And this is a licensed game, so I'm sure they had to pay for the license too. So obviously, wages do tend to be higher in America than in Japan for video game developers, especially in a place like LA where Skullgirls was developed. But still, like, the thought of this having a $100 million development, or 100 million yen development, is just practically unbelievable. So again, we don't know if that's the number, but that's what the publisher has said. That's around what they want their console games to be developed for. They don't mention Hunter x Hunter in any of the documents where they give that 100 million figure, but they do say that that's sort of their end goal for console games. So yeah, if this game is developed on that low of a budget, it's honestly almost impossible to believe. Like, I just can't believe that that's possible for a game that seems to have so much more development left. Like, I'm sure this game's not going to be done for another 6 months to a year. So could that really possibly be true? 100 million? It just seems, I don't know, outside of the realm of comprehension to me. But anyway, I think it's understandable that people would be a little bit disappointed that this is a type of game we don't get that often. We don't get a true assist fighter with, you know, all the overpoweredness and all the jank. Those don't come out very often. Nowadays, most assist fighters play it pretty safe. Plus, for fans of the franchise, for fans of Hunter x Hunter, I would understand their disappointment of like, wow, we don't get a 2D anime fighter that often, you know, based on a licensed anime. Like, we get Dragon Ball Fighters. That's like the one big one. Most other anime fighting games are arena fighters that a lot of people feel like are kind of cash-ins. So yeah, the fact that something like this comes about so rarely, the idea that this could just be shoved out the door with a really low budget and end up not doing that well because it doesn't look like a modern game, I think is a little bit frustrating to people. So I definitely understand where they're coming from on that. I think that if this was released at a budget price, I think it could end up being a pretty compelling offer to people. You know, if this came out at $30, $40 maybe, competing with games like Skullgirls or like Rivals of Aether or whatever games in that lower price point, I think it could be cool. More people would pick it up. You'd be able to find more opponents and stuff. But what worries me a little bit is if you look at the last game that was released by this publisher, the last game they released was called Rear Sakai. And it kind of has a lot of similarities to this game, even though they're a totally different type of game. This is like a top-down RPG, but it's similar in the sense that it is a low-budget game. They said that this was in that mid-range they were talking about, 100 million yen. A low-budget game made by kind of a legacy developer, because this was made by the same developers as Rune Factory, the same way that Hunter x Hunter is being made by the same developers as Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And this was a full-price game. This released at the same price as like Super Mario Wonder and stuff. So that's a pretty hard sell, don't you think? Like, if we look at this right here, and then you put that next to Tekken 8 or Street Fighter 6, or who only knows what other fighting games are coming out in the future. Like, if you see these on the shelf next to each other, it seems like a hard sell to me. So yeah, I would say, you know, overall, I'm remaining cautiously optimistic about the game. I'm definitely excited by the idea of a game that plays like Marvel and plays like TVC, just because I have such nostalgia for those games. I miss them so much, and I think this gameplay actually does look really good. You know, frame rate aside, I think the gameplay looks really, really fun, and I want to get my hands on the game and play it. And I can imagine this is the kind of game where you can get in training mode and just play around for hours and just have a huge amount of fun. So I remain cautiously optimistic about the game, but the idea that this game might come out and just kind of get lost and people might not look into it because it doesn't have the feel of a $60 fighting game, if that's what they end up selling it for, yeah, that has me a little bit worried. So yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed watching this footage. I think that the game looks fun. I can't wait to actually get to try it. But I hope that some of my concerns end up not being factors. I don't know. Let me know. What do you guys think down in the comments? I know nothing about Hunter x Hunter, actually. I haven't read the manga or watched the anime, so maybe I should do some of that before the game comes out, so I can actually know who these characters are. But let me know in the comments what you think, especially if you're a fan of Hunter x Hunter. I'm curious how well you think these characters realize the potential that they have from the licensed property, and let me know if you're interested in trying out the game as well. So thank you so much to you guys for watching, and of course, thank you to CAG and all their players for putting out this amazing gameplay demo. I appreciate that, and we're going to end the video there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.